I still remember the moment she said it. Her voice was calm, almost casual, like she was talking about the weather. "You're not invited for Christmas this year," my mom said, her hands busy arranging ornaments on the tree I had bought her last year. For a second, I thought she was joking. I even laughed. But she didn't. She just turned another shiny ball so it caught the light and added, "It'll be simpler that way." The room felt smaller, colder. I'd driven 3 hours to drop off a few early gifts, little things I'd picked out for everyone. The smell of pine and cinnamon should have felt warm, but suddenly it made me sick. "Did I do something?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed. "It's just, you always make things complicated. Your brother and his family will be here, and they want a peaceful day." There it was, the unspoken truth that had haunted every family gathering. Peaceful meant pretending I didn't exist. My brother, the golden child, never wrong, never questioned. And me, the one who paid the bills when mom's roof leaked, who covered her credit card debt last spring, who quietly planned to surprise her with a $10,000 check this Christmas to finally clear the rest. I looked at her twinkling tree, at the pile of gifts marked with my brother's kids' names, and felt something inside me shift. It wasn't anger at first, it was heartbreak, the kind that makes you see things clearly. I realized I'd spent years buying my place in a family that never really wanted me there. So when she told me not to come for Christmas, I decided to give her exactly what she'd asked for. The drive home was silent except for the hum of the tires and the soft clinking of the unused ornaments rolling on the passenger seat. I stared through the windshield, watching snow drift across the highway like static, replaying her words over and over. Every version of that conversation ended the same, me still begging for her approval, her still finding a new way to deny it. When I got home, I poured a cup of coffee that went cold before I touched it. My phone buzzed, a family group chat photo from my brother, a preview of their early Christmas dinner. Mom was in the middle, smiling, the grandkids around her, the living room glowing with the lights I'd installed last year. My chest tightened, but beneath the ache was something sharper, clarity. For years, I'd told myself money could patch the cracks. When she needed a new washer, I bought it. When my brother's car broke down, I loaned him the cash he never paid back. Somehow generosity had turned into expectation, and expectation into entitlement. I'd convinced myself that giving would make me belong. That night, I opened my laptop and looked at the transfer I'd scheduled for December 24th, $10,000 to Mom's account. It was supposed to be a surprise, a final gift to clear her debts and give her breathing room. My finger hovered over the cancel button. I hesitated, thinking of all the times she'd called only when she needed something. Not once to ask how I was doing. Not once to say she was proud. Cancel. The screen blinked, the confirmation appeared, and for the first time in years I felt weight lift from my shoulders. It wasn't revenge yet, it was self-respect reclaiming space. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was her. "Hey, sweetie," she started, her voice sweet enough to rot sugar. "I just wanted to check if you're still planning to come by with that envelope you mentioned." There it was, the real reason behind every sudden burst of motherly affection. I kept my voice calm. "You told me I wasn't invited, remember?" A pause. "Oh, don't be dramatic. You know how things get around your brother. He just likes things simple." "Right," I said quietly. "Simple." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness this time. From resolve. I finally saw the pattern for what it was, a script she'd written years ago, and I'd been reciting my part without question. This Christmas would be different. This Christmas would be different. I didn't mean that in the bitter way I once would have. I meant that for the first time, it would be mine. Over the next few days, I moved through my apartment like someone rearranging the pieces of their own life. I boxed the wrapping paper I'd bought for everyone else and replaced it with a single gold roll for myself. I ordered takeout instead of groceries meant for a crowd. Every choice felt foreign and freeing at the same time. Still, the quiet hurt. Nights stretched long and heavy. I'd catch myself scrolling through old photos, Mom laughing beside me, my brother's arms slung over my shoulder, and wonder how much of it had ever been real. I realized I'd been mistaking proximity for love. Just because someone stands beside you doesn't mean they're standing with you. On December 23rd, my aunt called. "Your mom mentioned you're not coming," she said carefully. She seemed upset. I bit back a laugh. She told me not to come. Well, you know how she gets. She probably didn't mean it. She always means it, I said. She just doesn't like when the consequences show up. We talked for a while, about small things, mostly. But before hanging up, my aunt said something that stuck with me. You've always been the glue in that family. Maybe stop holding it together and see what falls apart. The next morning, I woke up early, snow already layering the street outside. I brewed coffee and watched flakes blur the city skyline. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the pull to rush somewhere else, to prove my worth at a table that never had a chair for me. Around noon, another message came through from my brother. Mom's wondering if you're bringing the presents for the kids. No, how are you? No, sorry about Christmas, just logistics. I typed, deleted, retyped, then finally sent. Tell her she got exactly what she asked for. Then I set my phone face down and started planning something small but important, a Christmas that didn't revolve around earning anyone's approval. By the evening of December 24th, my apartment glowed with quiet amber light from a single candle. No noise, no fake laughter, no clinking of dishes trying to mask tension. Just peace. I'd cooked myself a simple dinner, roasted vegetables, a small steak, a glass of wine, and for the first time, it felt like a celebration that actually included me. Still, part of me kept wondering what was happening back home. I imagined my brother's kids tearing through wrapping paper, my mom beaming in that perfectly staged way she saved for company. I wondered if she noticed the missing envelope yet, the one that would have carried her Christmas miracle. I turned off my phone, deciding I didn't need to know. The silence was its own kind of gift. I ate slowly, watched the snow outside swirl in soft spirals, and felt something uncoil inside me. The ache was still there, but it no longer owned me. When midnight hit, I opened one small box under my own tree, a present I'd wrapped for myself, a new fountain pen I'd wanted for months. It wasn't expensive, but it felt symbolic. A tool to start rewriting my life, one page at a time. I sat down at the table and began jotting notes for a letter I would probably never send. I wrote about growing up in a house where love felt conditional, where every favor became a debt, and affection always had a receipt attached. I wrote about the little girl who used to stay quiet just to keep the peace, and how she finally learned that peace built on silence isn't peace at all. By the time I put the pen down, dawn was beginning to brighten the sky. I made coffee and smiled at the thought that somewhere, my mother might be realizing that the one person she'd pushed away had stopped trying to come back. Christmas morning had arrived, and with it, the kind of calm that doesn't ask for permission. Christmas morning was quiet in my apartment, but my phone buzzed constantly. Messages, missed calls, and a few innocuous greetings from friends I barely had time to respond to. Then, just as I was about to sit down with my coffee, my mom called. I stared at the screen for a long moment, my finger hovering over the green icon. Finally, I pressed it. Hello? I said, keeping my voice calm, deceptively casual. Sweetie. Merry Christmas, she chirped, her tone syrupy, practiced. I just wanted to check if you're coming by. Did you get my message? I felt the familiar spike of frustration, but I kept it contained. Your message? You mean the one telling me I wasn't invited? There was a pause, and then a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, that. Don't be silly. You know how these things go, sometimes we say things we don't really mean. It's Christmas. I let the silence stretch. Long enough for her to feel it. Long enough for me to feel it. I do know how these things go, I said slowly. And I also know exactly what I decided this year. Her tone faltered. Sweetie, what do you mean? I took a deep breath. I meant what I said when you told me I wasn't welcome. I canceled the $10,000 gift I had planned for you. The one I was going to transfer today. You're not getting it. You're getting exactly what you asked for, no part of me this Christmas. There was silence, and then a sharp intake of breath on her end. Wait, what? Are you serious? Completely, I replied, my voice steady now, a calm that surprised even me. I've spent years giving to a family that only asks for more, expecting it back with interest. And this year, I decided not to participate in that cycle. Not for you. Not for anyone. She sputtered, trying to regain composure. But, you can't just, don't you understand? Christmas is about family. This isn't fair. Fair? I said, a little harder now. You've never cared about fair. You've cared about what benefits you. I was tired of making Christmas about someone else's satisfaction. I'm done. The line went quiet again. I imagined her holding the phone, stunned, maybe shaking her head, maybe realizing for the first time how entitled she had become. I let her sit in that space. Finally, she whispered, almost breaking, "So, you're not coming?" "No," I said, and I meant it. "Merry Christmas, Mom. I hope this year teaches you what you missed while I was bending over backward for you. Goodbye." I hung up, set my phone down, and felt a weight lift like nothing I'd ever known. For the first time, Christmas didn't feel like a negotiation or a performance. It felt like mine. And in that quiet, I smiled, knowing the fallout was just beginning. The family would talk. They would notice. And when they realized I had finally drawn a line, the reckoning would follow, naturally, inevitably. I poured myself another cup of coffee, feeling a strange mix of relief and anticipation. This was only the start. After hanging up with my mom, I didn't check my phone again for a while. I needed space to savor the calm, the kind that comes from finally reclaiming control. But it wasn't long before the first ripple hit. It started with a text from my brother. "Mom says you didn't bring the presents for the kids, what's going on?" I smiled. Exactly, I thought. Let the dominoes fall. I didn't respond. By late morning, I began seeing notifications piling up, missed calls from family members I hadn't spoken to in months, a few from friends who had no clue about the drama but were forwarding messages asking why I wasn't at the house. Then came the email. I almost laughed when I saw it, a receipt notification from my bank. Mom had noticed the $10,000 hadn't hit her account and immediately assumed it was a technical error. She didn't know I had intentionally canceled it. A string of frantic calls followed, my phone vibrating on the counter, each ring sharper than the last. I let them go to voicemail, sipping my coffee like I owned the morning. This was the first time in years that I didn't answer, didn't explain, didn't apologize. For the first time, I was untouchable. By mid-afternoon, the texts escalated. My brother, usually the calm enabler, was panicking. "This isn't funny. Mom is crying, you have to fix this." I typed one short reply. I gave her exactly what she asked for. "Merry Christmas." And then I set the phone down. The rest of the day was peaceful. I watched the snow fall outside my window, listened to soft music, and felt a satisfaction I hadn't known in years. This wasn't about hurting anyone. This was about showing that boundaries have consequences, and entitlement has limits. Evening came, and the fallout started hitting social media. Posts from my family, half angry, half embarrassed, began circulating. "Why would she do this? She's always so dramatic. We just wanted her to be part of Christmas." I read each one with a growing sense of vindication. They were talking about me, yes, but they weren't controlling me anymore. The anger, the disbelief, the attempts to guilt me, they all confirmed one thing: I had finally disrupted the cycle. By nightfall, I felt a strange, almost cinematic satisfaction. This wasn't revenge in the petty sense, it was justice delivered in the form of clarity, boundaries, and accountability. For years, I had tried to please, to buy peace, to earn affection. Now, the peace was mine, and the lessons were theirs. As I poured myself another glass of wine, I realized the most satisfying part wasn't the chaos I had caused, it was the freedom I felt. My family could stew, call, or post online, but I had finally stepped off the stage of their entitlement. And for the first time in decades, Christmas belonged entirely to me. The days following Christmas were surreal. I didn't answer every call or text, but I checked social media quietly, watching the ripples I'd set in motion. Conversations, posts, and comments showed a mix of anger, confusion, and guilt from my family. My mom's usual confidence had shifted into frantic explanations, justifying her actions to anyone who would listen. My brother, usually the enabler of her whims, was awkwardly silent, unsure how to confront a sibling who had finally stood their ground. It was fascinating, almost cinematic, to watch years of entitlement crumble under the weight of a simple truth: I would no longer participate in their cycle. For decades, I had been the one who kept the family together, the one who bent, accommodated, and forgave. But now, for the first time, I had withdrawn. And that withdrawal, the refusal to give, to comply, to let my value be dictated by their whims, was more powerful than any argument or confrontation I could have staged. I spent the next few days reflecting. I wrote in my journal, planning for the new year, thinking about what had changed. It wasn't just about the money, it was about recognition, respect, and finally refusing to let past patterns dictate my present. My mother had expected control, my brother had expected compliance. Instead, they faced silence, and that silence was deafening. Friends reached out, checking in, offering support and congratulations. They didn't comment on the drama, they simply recognized that I had drawn a line and, more importantly, that I had kept it. It was a lesson in self-respect and the hard truth that sometimes, family doesn't notice the gifts you give until you stop giving them. By New Year's, I felt lighter than I had in years. The house was quiet but warm. I didn't need approval or praise, only the knowledge that I had finally prioritized myself over the cycle of entitlement and manipulation I had endured for too long. The gifts, the expectations, the performances, they were gone, and I could finally breathe. I thought back to the first moment my mother told me I wasn't welcome. It had felt like a punch, a deep emotional wound. But now, looking back, I could see it as the catalyst for everything that followed. It forced me to set boundaries, to reclaim my agency, and to finally teach a family that love cannot be measured in obligation, and respect cannot be demanded by force. Christmas had become more than a date on the calendar. It had become a turning point in my life, a day that marked the beginning of freedom, clarity, and self-respect. Outro, 90 words. That Christmas, I realized that generosity isn't about bending to someone else's expectations, it's about giving when it's meaningful and refusing when it's not. Walking away from my family's entitlement didn't feel cruel, it felt necessary. I reclaimed my power, my peace, and my dignity. For the first time, I understood that love cannot be coerced, and respect must be earned, not demanded. That year, Christmas didn't belong to my family, it belonged to me. And for the first time, I felt truly at home in my own life.